And you're very welcome along to the first edition of the 2025 series of TippCast with me, Shane Brophy, sports editor of the Nina Guardian, and I'm joined by local sports writer Noel Dundon. Noel, you're welcome to the show.
Thanks, Shane. Great to be back.
Absolutely. And just before we crack on, I suppose it was the start of a new year, and I suppose a bit of change here in TippCast. I suppose that Shane Stapleton has moved on to pastures new. I think we were up around 150 episodes with Shane since we started back in, I think it was just before COVID in 2020. So it feels a different era. So thanks to him and thanks to Robert Healy of Healy AV, who's on board with us now doing some of the background work. And through the course of the year, we'll probably taking a different track with the show, mainly pre-records. It might be more than one episode a week. We would look to do maybe some one-on-one interviews, maybe take in other sports as well from time to time. So as much as like Jay in the counties, a lot of good sport going on between rugby, soccer. We saw Charlene Maudsley and in the Olympics last year, and rowing as well. So from time to time we'll be bringing in other elements, but predominantly we will be with GA, and we had the start of a new season, Noel, and we had it last weekend. I made the trip to Salt Hill. A nice trip of any time, but to come back from there with a handsome win. I suppose we went up there with a bit of definitely into the unknown, really. Lot of doubts from last year, and look, we can't get too far ahead of ourselves. But if you offered Liam Cahill the outcome of what happened last weekend, he would have bitten your hand off.
Yeah, I think you would, Shane. And as you said, like, Galway is a nice place to go to. It's a difficult place to get to, Salt Hill, but it's always a hard place to come out of with a result, you know. And I think going up, if Liam had been told that he'd come away with 2 points, he'd been very happy. There was a lot of stuff going on around last weekend with the storm and all that kind of thing. And would the match be on, and wouldn't it be on? And all of the damage to infrastructure up in the west of Ireland too. Like, would there be a possibility
on Saturday night when you were watching the football match?
Yeah. And it probably reflected that on the day too. The pitch was very heavy and cut up fairly heavy. And I'd say, I don't want to say easy and all as it was for Tip on Sunday, because it wasn't. It still had to be won. But I'd say there was a few sore bodies when they resumed for training on Tuesday night, because those conditions were very, very heavy. But I think one of the really important aspects of the game last Sunday was that it has set the Tipperary public off in a very positive manner. You know, that if you go up and lose in Galway, it would be a downer at the very start of the year. And, you'd have people kind of saying, oh, same old. Whereas we went up there with a lot of newcomers, really took it to Galway, came away with a fine win, and a win that would have been far more comprehensive had it not been for, two softish enough goals, like. And suddenly the mood is up before we go to face Wexford next Sunday,
Yeah, definitely. I did think beforehand that I thought, like, I suppose both Galway and Tip were coming into the match in sort of the same vein. Both didn't get out with their respective provinces last year. Both sort of in rebuilding mode, and it's something that I suppose Liam Cahill pointed to before the match in his interview with T.G. Cahir. And I know there's a certain element of the sport out there who now looking at a year 3, and they're not prepared to give too much leeway. But look, I suppose last year was such a disappointment, and look, there definitely is an air of new broom at the moment. And look, we saw 4 debutants in the starting team, 2 more off the bench. I know you were watching at home. Like, there was, I know you can definitely pick up things differently live and on telly, and I get your thoughts on what you picked up on telly. I thought, I don't know whether you'd agree with me, that I thought we do way more nimble on the feet than we were last year. I thought we were, like, it's easy to be fit at this time of the year, and we all know that the Tip have been doing their gym programs since October, like, and they're probably ahead of the curve in terms of some counties. But like, I did think even compared to the first round of the league last year, I'd look at Ronan Maher. He has toned down massively. He's some of the muscle has come off, and there's definitely a leanness in some of the players, and an emphasis probably on speed this year.
Yeah, it's funny, Shane. You described it as being nimble on the feet. The word that came to my mind when watching the game on Sunday was the energy. That we seem to have huge energy, and of course they're the same thing, and just in different definitions. I thought we were really, really energetic around the field. I suppose, to be fair, Willie Connors probably epitomised that. You know, he's a guy who's always full of energy anyway when he's on the field, and wants to be in the middle of everything. But even you look in the forward line and the kind of ball that the likes of Andrew Ormond won, and Walsh from Carrick as well, like, you know, winning Dylan, or from Banagary, should say, Dylan Walsh catching ball, and when they hit the ground, they're gone. You know, no sort of pause at all in the movement. The ball was won and gone. And that was across the field. You know, they really were. Michael Corcoran the same way, like, you know, in the back, like, coming in there and doing very, very well. And Sam O'Farrell as well, like, you know, I thought the real energy. And that kind of, I suppose that kind of lifts the team. If, you know, if the team is showing that kind of energy, the rest of the players become energized by it as well, as does your following in the stands. And that was kind of evident too from what I could hear, that there was a fair old support there for Tip. And the more things were going right, the more vocal they became.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a very small crowd. Like even the Galway fans, it was the real diehard stuff. And I'd say when people saw the matches on TG Car, a lot of people maybe ducked out of it. But yeah, from the Tip supporters that were there, like, they couldn't be but impressed. Like, if I see you mentioned Michael Corcoran, I thought he was good in the first half. Liam Collins was dangerous inside in that, but he kept him quiet. But I suppose Michael came off with a minor hamstring injury, although he played for UL yesterday in the Fitzgibbon Cup.
That's right.
But then Robert Doyle comes on and does even better, and the league completely shuts down Liam Collins in the second half. And I know, like, that's a real plus. Like, I suppose if you were to take some crumbs from last year, it was the Clare match when Owen Connolly went in. Remember, Michael Breen was pulled out very late in the warm up, and Owen Connolly went in late at fullback, and he had a great game, and like, put in straight away at fullback after a great campaign with Cashel. Just that's 2 games in a row. Owen Connolly is sort of bedding in nicely at fullback. You have Ronan at 6. I thought it was probably Brian McGrath's best game at inter-county level at wing back too. I say middle of the field, Willie Connors, and I thought Craig Morgan, and I like the idea of Craig Morgan in the middle of the field, because I definitely picked it up from the Laois Challenge game. Like, there's definitely sort of a Dara O'Donovan type quality to him at Limerick. Geez, he's all action. He can get up and down the field. He loves the physical contact. So that's probably something I'd like to see maybe developed. That we can't have players pigeonholed in certain positions, like people thinking that Craig is an out-and-out cornerback. Craig is very versatile. Craig can play in the forwards too, as he's over Killer One. And then in the forwards, I thought a couple of things. Handing Darren McCarthy the free taking responsibility on day one, like, that's notable. Like, it's easy just to hand to Gerard O'Connor, who's 3 or 4 years on the panel and a bit more experience. No, they've given it to Dara, and like, he nailed I think it was a 65 his first free, like, in difficult conditions. He nailed it. Missed the subsequent one after that, but very, very good. And while he didn't have things his own way in open play, he was always a willing runner into space. Like, an amount of times, he definitely assisted in a couple of scores. And then I suppose the big positive was Dylan Walsh. I thought, like, he's not young, like, he's 25, 26, but even the first ball he got, he took it inside over the bar, like, no nerves whatsoever. He sort of, this is my chance, and like, 1-3 from play, very, very good. And I thought he's 2 points late on in the game, like, they were far out, just took a sidestep, gave himself half yard over the bar, like real old style Tipperary forwards. If you give them a half yard, they'll take it. And I just thought those players in particular are really, really encouraging.
Yeah, and to be fair about it, Shane, Dylan could have had another couple of goals as well on another day. Like the goalkeeper
Yeah,
made a couple of good saves, but the impressive thing there was that he was getting in. You
yeah,
know, he was getting into the position to shoot because we last year in particular we were a little bit kind of toothless when it came to creating goal chances. You
mm,
know, we were, taking points and that kind of thing. Whereas if you're going to win matches, you want to score goals. I think
yeah,
that's it's, it's
mm,
the old saying is still a true one, like that. Goals win games. But just to go back to Craig Morgan there, it's funny you should say about his versatility, because I often thought that, and cornerbacks won't like me for saying this, but I often felt that he was too good of a hurler for a cornerback.
mm,
You
yeah,
know, that he had an awful lot more to offer than just shackling a player and trying to stop a player,
mm,
important though that is in the position there.
mm,
And when you have somebody in your ranks like that who's able to get up and down the field, able to take a score as well, Shane, took
yeah,
a couple of scores too, like, um, and that link, that ability to link between half back and half forward is very important in the midfield role, because you can play midfield and you can run all day and never get a puck of the ball,
mm,
or never get on possession. So it's important that you have guys there who are able to read the game, get on the ball, and when they do get on it, that they know what to do with it. A couple of times, I think it was Willie Connors for Dylan Walsh's goal,
mm,
got in and won the ball, turned to face his own goals and tossed it back to Ronan Maher,
yeah,
who put a great ball across field
yeah,
into Dylan Walsh's hand. Uh, another player maybe might get that ball, in Willie Connor's case, might get that ball and turn and head for
yeah,
the opposition goal and find himself swallowed up.
mm,
But he had the presence of mind to turn the other way, back to where the quarterback, if you want to call it
mm,
that, was waiting, and we end up creating a brilliant goal.
yeah.
So there was a lot to like, I thought, from the two lads in the middle of the field. A lot of that energy that they brought again was infectious around the field for the rest of the guys. And more the same, please.
Yeah, and I think there's no doubt, based on early season evidence. So I was at the Leash Challenge match, and on Sunday, there definitely seems to be more of a structure to how we were playing, and I think that was maybe frustrating last year. We didn't. A lot of players seemed unsure, and like there was definitely you could see on Sunday in the forward line that Walsh and McCarthy were more or less playing in it in the square, and they were breaking out. Jake Morris was sort of given a floating role. He was the third inside forward, but he was allowed drift. Andrew Ormond, I thought, very, very good at centre forward. I think Shane Cooney had a bit of a nightmare there, but we know, like, Andrew's pace, and like I thought he's just and he was his work rate and physicality, I thought, were massive in the game too. I just thought we finally figured out how to play the modern game. You play two inside, and you sort of get more or less everyone else to pull out. And like there was acres of space there at times. And like if the ball breaks in behind a half back line, and with the players Tip have, they can really. That's where the goal chances will come, because we have pace then get in behind. And as I say, we're unlucky maybe to not get more than 3 goals as well. I suppose
Yeah,
puck outs as well, I thought were very, very good from Ree Shelley. We know that's his strength. I thought there was a couple there in the second half where, I'm sorry, in the first half, where he sort of pinged them to, I think, one to Samuel Farrell in stride. Obviously, I think who was wing forward on that side, I can't remember. Alan Tynan cleared out his area, and and the ball was sent into there. Samuel Farrell ran into it. I think he drove it wide, and I think there was a puck out about 2 minutes later, the very same. So we can see what's developing there. I suppose it'll be interesting to see. I don't know. It has been maybe a frustrating talking point maybe among some supporters that over the last first 2 years that he's rotated his keepers in the league instead of nailing down one. It'll be interesting to see whether Reece goes again on Sunday, or whether through the course of the 6 matches that him and Barry alternate. Because like they're pretty even. Both would have their strengths. I would think Shelley's puckouts are slightly better, but I would think Barry's command of the square and the high ball is much better. Like, and I think their shot stopping ability is much the same. So it'll be interesting to see where will they prioritize securing the goal, or will they prioritize the restarts.
Yeah, I'd agree with you on that. If you could put the two of them into a tumble dryer and mix the two of them together, you'd have the perfect goalkeeper. It's yeah, I know, and I know that what you're saying about the frustration last year with the kind of the swapping between one and the other. But I suppose from a management's point of view, it's a great position to be in to have two really good goalkeepers in your ranks. Reece Shelley's puck outs, but not just his puck outs. It's when he gets ball coming into him as well, and his ability to move to the side and distribute ball is really really good. Not saying Barry's isn't, but Reese's is really good. Um, he has that ability to drive the ball out rather than just puck it out. And the benefit there is that even if he goes long and he's driving it, if the ball passes through the player that it's destined for, it'll continue on up the field, and that's a big plus in the modern game. If you can pass your half back line when you're going with a long ball and it breaks through, that's a big plus. I think my own feeling is that he will rotate. That he'll have to give Barry the opportunity as well. He didn't put a foot wrong really last year either, and from what I can see in training, that seems to be the thing that each of them are swapping over and back within if you like, if you want to call it the A team and the B team in training.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of happening too, I think.
Yeah.
But also, I would say with Andrew Ormond, sorry, phone going off there. Uh, I was in watching the team training there about maybe 3 weeks ago, and I couldn't believe the conditioning of Andrew Ormond. The way he has, the actual the what he has put on in terms of muscle and all of that muscle mass, and that is definitely down to the strength and conditioning work. Like Andrew was, I suppose this is what maybe his third season in there now at this stage, beginning his third season, and you can really see the benefits of that strength and conditioning work. And it goes
And I
back
get
to the point that we,
and I think it's while Angelo Walsh was the S&C coach that year, this was his first real off season with them. And we know Angelo heavily involved with the under the 2022 minor team and that won the All Ireland, and I think the Bursley team that got to the club final in 2020. He does have an excellent record when he gets time with a team and puts I would have thought that last year that there's a lot of elements of why Tip fell down a bit. Some of it was mental. We put up the white flag a bit early in some games. I definitely thought whatever winter training they did last year wasn't compatible to what they needed in the summer. You look at Clare, Limerick, Cork, that's supposed the big three in Munster at the moment. They're lightning quick. They're so, and I thought maybe Tip were made look. They were actually made look unfit. They weren't unfit. They were just they hadn't been trained to the requirements of where hurling has gone now. You have to be athletic, and definitely there was an awful lot of there was signs last Sunday, and we so far and we're definitely way more athletic. Brian McGrath made a run on Sunday. Like it was probably the one aspect of Brian's game that you always thought would hold him back at intercounty level. He's that can he get to the ground? There was times I think in last year, I think he played a match against Limerick, and he was a bit cumbersome getting out, coming out from centre back to read a breaking ball in the half back. There was no cumbersomeness in the way he played last weekend.
Yeah, and it's probably the fact too that Brian has been there a couple of seasons now, and he's probably grown in confidence in that too. And they had he had a great season with Lockmore as well last year as they went to win the double, as we all know. But it's very hard to put an old head on young shoulders, and it takes fellas a while to come into an inter-county setup and find their feet and get their confidence, and like we always say, or we often say that the inter-county player is a very confident player, and they have to be to get to that level. But when you get to that level, then it takes you a while to find your confidence at that level.
Yeah.
It's very easy to be a confident hurler playing senior club hurling well, I shouldn't say very easy, but it's easier to be playing senior club hurling and to be comfortable in that zone. And then you make the step up to inter-county senior. It's a whole different ball game, totally different ball game in terms of the demands, in terms of the requirements, in terms of what you do off the field as much as on the field, and in terms of your own headspace and how you cope with the pressures that it brings. So like it can take, just like it takes a year or two for fellas to get themselves right physically and S&C and all that, it takes a while for fellas to get there mentally too. Like there aren't too many Pádraig Mars or Brendan Maher or John Noel McGrath who can just walk into the senior team straight out of minor or under 19, or those guys don't really exist anymore,
Especially in
so
the
it
modern
takes time
game,
to
like,
build.
and I suppose minors gone back to 17, but the S&C demands, like, unless you're a physical freak like Kyle Hayes of Limerick, who you're really taking to, definitely as a minor, you're taking at least to 20, 21 years of age. I mean, see Darren McCarthy, like, I think that the rate he's going, he probably will start in the summer at 19 years of age, but we mightn't see the peak of him till he's 21, 22.
Yeah, that's exactly it, Shane. And like it does take players that time to settle in. I mean, like if you take Garrod Hegarty possibly as a case in point, hurler of the year a couple of times, multiple All-Star winner. But Garrod Hegarty went through a good few seasons there with Limerick where he was, no more than there until all that success began to come. And big in all a man as he is and that, So it just takes that time, and that's what I think uh,
There's
Liam is affording the
confidence and
players.
belief too, like, and like you stand in,
Yeah,
you start doing things that that maybe you're backing off and doing, and like I think there's no doubt. I think Tipperary maybe the last few years had doubted themselves, like, and maybe didn't truly believe, and like that. I think that was a thing that we've seen Liam Cahill teams going back to minor, that the one thing they never lacked was courage, and there was a lack of small bit of belief and said a bit of self-doubt last year. And I think whatever happens this year, if we get teams that are believe and fit and confident, and not, I think winning on Ireland, it's a long way down the road, but like I think we could surprise teams this year. I don't think it's going to be a foregone conclusion that Clare, Limerick, and Cork will be the top three in Munster. Like you'd have to think that there's always talent in Tipperary. It's just, I thought I think we were the last team. We were struggling to move to the modern game, if you know what I mean. Like we're very traditional. We love getting the ball from A to B as quick as possible, and a lot of people in Tip don't like the running game, the short passing. But we had to adapt, and I thought for the first time, maybe in the challenge games, and then we were starting to get comfortable playing that way.
Yeah, that's the word, comfortable. We began to understand what this was about, I think, and maybe the last couple of seasons we've been tinkering around with different kind of approaches. And even when you even go back to when Colin Bonner was there, he was trying something similar. But the boys didn't seem to kind of appreciate what it was about at all. And like it does take that time to essentially tear up the rule book as we would have known it, and reform a new one, but we are getting there. I think we are, and there was even signs of it last year too, Shane. I mean, the game against Watford down in Walsh Park, I thought there were signs of it there as well. We ran into an awful haymaker then against Limerick, but which really kind of damages for the rest of the campaign, I suppose. But there were signs there that it was coming right, and I think we all have to give the players and the management team that little bit of time to do it. It was something that.
Yeah, I think it has to be pointed out that, I suppose the one Tip no more than maybe some other counties, an awful lot of chatter behind the scenes, and the management are doing this or not doing this, and there's nobody on the panel. There's nobody not on the panel. There's nobody walked off the panel last year. Like I thought Noel McGrath staying, and you have maybe the likes of Ronan Maher, Seamus Kennedy, Michael Breen, Jason Ford, the guys that have 2 All-Ireland medals in their pocket and they're approaching 30 and thinking, God, I want to be part of a rebuild here, like when maybe we might win Anton, but they've stayed. Like that's that's a fair vote of confidence for the management to say, "Oh, look, these boys they're on the right track here. Last year wasn't right, but they're on the right track here." Like Bonner and Dan McCormick stepped away to give great service. Barry Heffernan and Mark Keogh have made a decision to go traveling for the year. There was no falling out or anything like that. And of course, the management made their own call on Cathal Barrett as their want. Like, so everybody else, nobody threw their dummy out and said, "I'm walking away here."
Yeah, and that the experienced guys that you've mentioned there, they're going to be crucial as the campaign goes on, because you can be certain sure that we'll hit bumps on the road as well. It won't all be plain sailing, and to some degree, last Sunday might have been a little bit of a surreal result, in the sense that I don't think Galway will be as poor again too quickly. They were quite poor, even though we put them to the sword and put them away, which is something that we haven't been doing actually, Shane. When we did get the foot on the throat of teams in the past, we weren't putting them away, but we certainly put Galway away last Sunday. But, just to go back to the experienced guys there too, the lads who have 2 All-Ireland medals in their pockets, as you say. It was brilliant to see Seamus Kennedy coming back into it. I know he was back the previous game, but to actually see him back in competitive action was great. And it's a real personal tribute to him, I suppose, to see how fit he was and how lean he was and all that. So he's a guy who's fully committed to Tipperary and always has been. And both himself and the other experienced guys, they're going to be so important when championship time comes around as well, because just to have that voice in the dressing room is so important, when you are building a team and you have a lot of new guys coming through.
Yeah, and I suppose we're looking ahead to Sunday in Wexford, and look, we have to be careful in terms of last Sunday. Look, as impressive as Tip were, it was as poor a Galway side as I've seen in a long time. Very inexperienced. Met a lot of. They look very unsure of themselves, but look, they're in the first year of a rebuild with Micheál Donoghue, who is going to, and they have a lot of guys to come back. I think the danger would be that it's Wexford at the weekend. They were badly beaten by Cork. Tip should be winning this one well. The amount of times there can be a laziness in some of the chatter around the county coming up to matches Tip should be winning, and it's dangerous talk. Like I would think that Liam Cahill would be saying, "All with this week, lads, it's our first home game. We've become too easy to beat at home. We've got to start making Semple Stadium a fortress again." If Tipperary are to get out of Munster, they've got to be winning their two minimum. Considering we're away to Clare and away to Cork, and I know we have Limerick at home first up, I still think the best way of getting at minimum 4 points is to win your 2 home games, and we've got to start making Thurles a fortress again. We've got to build on last Sunday, and I always think that the dangerous time to play a team is after a heavy beating, and Wexford will be coming to Thurles. Doesn't matter who they're missing, and they're missing some big names. If we've seen Wexford over the years, there's one thing they're not short of is fight, and you can be sure Key Rossiter will be absolutely ramming those guys up for Sunday, and Tip have got to be ready.
Yeah, Wexford will always have a sting in them, and when their backs are to the wall, they really come out fighting. And I think their backs are to the wall. To take a hiding like that in Wexford Park was a big, big blow to them. Right, All Ireland finalists Cork were in town for the day, and Cork are probably trying to lay down a bit of a marker as well at the start of the year. But it was a humiliating one for them, and Wexford go on the road then this weekend to face Tip, which would be a difficult assignment for them at any stage. But given the fact that it comes on the back of that heavy defeat, I'm sure that there'll be a huge determination there for them to prove that they're not at the stage that the Cork match suggested that they might have been at.
They're already being mentioned as foregone relegation candidates, but then if we turn it back on Tip, if Tip get the win, 4 points is probably going to guarantee Tip top Division 1A hurling next year, and then you can go into the last 4 games. The pressure is off into relegation's probably put to one side, because you have you have Galway and Wexford on head-to-head if one of those two teams ends up getting to 4 points and Tip not winning another game beyond next Sunday. And it just gives a bit more flexibility for Liam to experiment. I know he's keen maybe by the Kilkenny match to try and know 12 and 13 of his maybe championship team, and just in like there will be changes for the weekend. I assume Michael Corcoran will be rested. Gerard O'Connor played Fitz yesterday. I'd say maybe off the back of maybe last year when he looked like he burnt himself out after Fitz, and I know he's a Fitz game again next week. I'd be very surprised if Gerard O'Connor plays again on Sunday. But it opens the opportunity for more guys to come in. Conor Martin got a few minutes last weekend. He'll be looking for more time. John McGrath is another one. I said if we can get John McGrath back to anywhere, even with 10 or 15% of his best, he would be some addition. I still don't think it's 2019 since we saw the best of John McGrath, and I think if we can get his club form to go back into county, get the confident John McGrath back, he'd be some addition.
Yeah, and that injury that he got, that Achilles injury that he got, really, really affected him, and it is a serious injury, even for the likes of the, Premiership soccer stars to snap the Achilles. It's a long recovery process there, and it takes you a while, and you do lose a little bit, definitely with it. But I'd agree with you if we can get John firing, because John's very cool on the ball, and if he's playing a big part in the game, whether he comes in, with 10, 15 minutes to go and gets a ball and can do something for you, or whether you start him and let him get you to the 40-minute mark, that type of thing. I'm not sure that there's probably a full hour in John, or the 70 minutes at this stage. The same as Noel, I suppose, really. But I think any defender who would look out to the sideline and see 45 minutes gone and John McGrath is coming in, you're going to be saying, it's kind of out of the frying pan into the fire, because he's so dangerous in what he can do.
He's hurling brain. You can only imagine a confident John McGrath on the ball, and you had a Darren McCarthy beside him. You could just you are using him as our Jake Moore. He's John's vision, would and his use of the ball would bring others into the play. And look, we know he can be deadly accurate as well if he's facing the goal too.
Yeah, and that vision, Shane, is often overlooked because of how good Noel is at that. People maybe don't often think of John in the same vein. But I can also tell you from looking at Lockmore for a long time here in Mid-Tipperary, that John McGrath is a tremendous man to bring newcomers into the play as well. And we've seen that time and again with Lockmore, where they've introduced young players. They're not afraid to do it. Young players into the team, and John will win this ball and shake off a defender and throw the pass, and the next thing the young guy has a pint got and he's feeling good about himself, and that. And John is a great man to do that. And it's a difficult one for a forward to do, because when a forward gets the ball, he's generally facing his own goals. He has to win the ball first, shake off a player, look at what he's going to do, and then give the pass. But John has that ability to do it, whereas Noel is more inclined to be getting it facing the opposition goal, if you know what I mean. But
we have. It'll be interesting to see how the thing goes over the next while, because you mentioned Seamus Kennedy, where are the management going to play Seamus, assuming he's fully fit and going by the 20th of April? Will he be wing back? Will he be middle of the field? Will he be a wing forward, dropping back into sort of Gerard Hegarty, Tom Morrissey kind of a role? Where do they see Noel McGrath as a 45-minute starter or a 25-minute finisher? I'd agree with you. I don't think at Intercounty Noel can go the full 70. If I was to lean at the moment, I love his role with Loughmore last year, where with 10 or 15 minutes to go, he more or less drifted back as a fourth half back, and his vision and his ability to you can imagine as a game opens up in the middle of a second half of Munster Championship and it starts to get frenetic, and Noel McGrath comes on at 45 and he just brings calmness to a half back line, just an extra body around there, pinpoint passes, and that's where games are won and lost. The last quarter of matches, it's the team who make their better right decisions on the ball, using the ball well, not making maybe shooting on sight and making bad shots and maybe 80-yard balls up the field to nobody. And you can only, I loved that role a lot more. I'm not sure whether they gave him or to get Noel figure that out himself, but it was so obvious as the championship wore on how I'd say it was probably Noel thinking he sort of senses where he's needed, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I suppose the question there is what would happen with Ronan then at centre back if Ronan is sweeping. Do you have two sweepers there? But Shane, probably the best example of that I saw with Tipperary in a long time was probably against Wexford actually in 2019 when John had been sent off and our backs were to the wall really. The key to winning that game was the kind of ball that our forwards got. Because our backs were able to look up. Ronan in particular had a storm in the last 15, 20 minutes in that game, looking up, charging out and pinging the ball to the forwards. It wasn't just a case of lashing up the field.
Yeah.
And if you're in a situation like you were talking about where Noel is drifting back into the half forward line, the distribution of the ball into the forwards is going to be key because generally speaking, if he's gone back, it means that there's an extra backman back in the opposition half as well. So you've got to bypass that extra backman. You've got to put the ball on the plate of the tip forward who can run onto it. And Noel and John kind of perfected that between themselves with Lockmore. The question is, can it be replicated at inter-county stage? And I think it probably can, particularly given that we're looking at forwards now who have legs and who are able to get out in front, get their ball and create something, But it's very important that when those receiving forwards take that ball, that your half forwards and midfield are charging forward to take it off them as well, and that again goes back to the whole energy thing,
So like it'll be, I suppose it'll be encouraging, hopefully, to see how Tip build on last weekend. This game is at 3:45 on Sunday in FBD Semple Stadium. It's not on television or on the TG Car Player. So if you want to either follow it, you have to go to Tip FM and listen on radio or go live. And look, we need, as Liam Cahill said, we need to get the supporters back on side. And I suppose not having the game on television, we did the wear on last weekend. It's a home game. I think the weather is looking half decent for Sunday. Why not try and get out there and we got to build this thing slowly, and hopefully they can do it. No, the
bank holiday weekend as well, Shane.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a bank holiday weekend as well. Yeah, and it's all stand only actually.
Yeah, absolutely. But I suppose if we can get 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 people there now to be a good start, it'll be a long way short of the crowd they're going to get in Páirc Uí Chaoimh on Saturday night for Cork and Limerick. That's fantastic. Like you just see where hurling is at the moment, that Cork and Limerick could get the guts of 30,000. I know there's a lot of chatter this week about it not being initially on telly, and I did find it strange how TG Cahir had first pick and somehow thought Donegal versus Dublin was the game to choose over Cork and Limerick. I know people are piling on the GA and Cork, but this was TG Cahir's, and TG Cahir ultimately bailed out the GA by agreeing to show it online. But I'd love to know the thought process of how Cork and Limerick wasn't the first choice of any game, whether it's Saturday or Sunday this weekend, because of what they served up last year. But staying with Tip, the footballers drew with Carlow last Saturday evening, 213 to 116. I suppose coming into it, Noel, and like Philly Ryan had new manager, found it very difficult to get challenge matches. I think they only played the Kildare development squad. A lot of new players, a lot of guys that decided to take time away. So to go down there, fall 7 behind, come back and leave with a point, it's a great play. It's outside of a win. It's a good place to start with from Tip.
Yeah, and I suppose, Shane, when Philly was appointed manager of the team, you kind of got the feeling straight away that this is somebody who was going to bring a lot of spirit to the team, because that's the way he was himself when he was playing. Albeit from the goals, he'd been bellowing out at lads out the field and that. But he's a guy who brings a lot of fun to the setup as well, And I think that's important
at their best, aren't they? Even when the good years with Liam Kearns and David Power, Tip are at their best when they're sort of let off the leash a bit. That they're not too much. They don't like it's like, I suppose, it's like football and Tip, where it's the second game, but not an awful lot of people take it seriously. But it's very enjoyable if you sort of let players express themselves rather than put them in too much of a structure.
Yeah, and it looked to me for the last couple of seasons, looking at Tip, that they didn't enjoy the structure. Over and back across the field all the time, trying to create little pockets and holes and all that kind of thing. And it wasn't working. The results are proof of that it wasn't working. So something different had to be tried, really. And uh, it's a very positive start. It wasn't a win, but it wasn't a defeat. And to go to Carlow is a fair old place to come out of with any kind of a result. I think I remember coming out of there with the result in the Tailteann Cup there a couple of seasons ago. But
we lost to them last year in the first round in Thurles as well. So
that's right, in Thurles. So to go down and come back with a point is a good result for them. And again, it goes back to the whole thing of creating a little bit of positivity, particularly when you've got a new bunch of players coming in. The one thing that you'd like to think is that with new players coming in, they don't maybe carry baggage, the baggage of defeats of the past or whatever. They're getting their chance, and this is their opportunity to show what they can do or whatever. I think Philly would have been emphasising that players, forget about last year, forget about last week. It's the game that's coming. That's the one that you've got to focus on.
Forget about the first half when you're 6 points down at half time. Like they did that in the second half. Michael Freeney on his debut getting a goal. Mark Russell. Definitely, I have probably a broken record at this stage with the new 2-point arc or Mark Russell, but like that's sort of made for him. And I know I'm going down on Saturday to Clonmel to see the Longford match, and like I do think that the new rules and Mikey O'Shea coming back into the squad and Sean O'Connor, like Tipper, I think Tip. If you play more of an attacking game, it'll definitely look okay. You might risk conceding a few more scores at one end, but if you're scoring at the other end, sure, as you say, it makes the game way more enjoyable. And going to training Tuesday and Thursday night, way more enjoyable too. If you're not just doing the tactical sessions over and back, maybe not even kicking a ball over the bar in the back of the net in a drill, like so. Which is a lot of what a lot of counties seem to be doing at the moment. It's probably they don't even look like they know what they're. Even the division counties are probably the worst at it. Do they even do shooting drills and training anymore?
Yeah, you wonder, guys getting the ball as far as 30 yards and coming back out the field again and trying to create those breakthroughs, rather than taking the score. But the new rules have been interesting too, and I suppose we've seen maybe the good and the bad of them. I heard Philly was interviewed after the game. He was interviewed on with Marty Morrissey and RTE there on maybe Monday or Tuesday on the radio, and he was particularly happy with the tap and go one. He thought that was a good addition to the thing where you can win your free but just solo on and whatever. The 2-pointer is the one probably that garners a lot of interest because it's such a unique thing. But we benefited at the end with the three players up, or back, or whatever way you want to describe it in that game too. There's a lot going on in football at the moment. You're watching as much of the tactical thing and the whole new rules thing as you are maybe some of the game. But certainly, if we can back it up with a good performance this weekend again against Longford, it'll be a big bonus to Tip. And let's try and do that. To have 3 points out of 2 games would be brilliant,
Absolutely. And look, we've you hear a lot over the years that Tip should be playing more games in the Heartland and Clonmel. I think it's time for a lot of people in maybe South Tipperary that have been calling for games in Clonmel to get out there on Sunday. Like, come from all over, particularly for Clonmel. If you've been calling for it, like to have this game, I think the Wicklow game at the very end is there too. The London game on the 22nd is a double header with the hurlers in Semple Stadium. So like Clonmel is getting 2 games. It's Philly Ryan's home club, and a lot like the hurlers. There's a lot of exciting young potential there. As I said, that the Kennedy brothers have taken time away. Evan Comerford has drifted away. Conor Sweeney's retired. There's You still have the Feehan brothers, like they're hard, they're loyal as the day is long. Like so, like there's no doubt about like that. This is like if Tip could win at the weekend against Longford, that's 3 points out of 4. You're definitely looking upwards. Like I'm not saying promotion or anything like that, but it gives you a chance. I think they have a weekend off then before they let me see, they play Waterford away. Like that's a winnable game. You think after last year, Tip will be driven to have a go at Waterford, and then like that,
Yeah.
then the host London. That's probably a game they'll be targeted. And Tip potentially could have 7 points out of 8 with 3 games to go, and then maybe you're looking upwards towards maybe having a go at Wexford and Wicklow and for promotion towards the end, and Limerick.
Yeah,
I think they were the main 3 teams.
and if you do have 7 points with 3 games to go, you have a lot of confidence behind you and momentum, you know. So that would be a big thing too, particularly with a new team and with a young team, you know. But you know, to go back to the Clonmel issue, Shane, like you know, the two of us have sat in the stand there and watched Tipperary football teams struggle in the expanses of Semple Stadium because sometimes we just didn't have the legs or whatever. And even if you have 1,000 or 1,500 supporters there, you wouldn't hear them in the stadium. So, like going back to Clonmel at the weekend, it'll be like a throwback to the olden days, where please God it will be. Please God you'll get the crowd to come out. Hopefully they'll come out in support and you know, much like we were saying about making Semple Stadium a bit of a fortress for the hurlers. Let's try and create that same kind of a mentality with the footballers as well in Clonmel. It's the heartland of Tipperary football. Maybe Lockmore might agree with that, but it's kind of the spiritual heartland of Tipperary football, and I think a lot of teams coming to visit Tipperary would be less pleased at having to go to Clonmel than they would going to Semple Stadium. So why not make it as difficult for them as we possibly can, you know?
Absolutely. Just moving on to the ladies footballers. Noel, you were in Fethard on Sunday. Tip fell 2-9 to 7 points defeat to Galway. Probably scoreline, probably a little harsh. Galway deserving winners, probably, but I'd say for Ed Burke, new manager coming in, I'd say be pleased enough. Like Galway lost last year's All Ireland final, like, and they're in Division 2. So like Tip were competitive. Aisling Maloney didn't feature, so you put her back in. It's going to be stronger. Caitlin Kennedy's back on the squad, but she didn't play last weekend. And Rose Kennedy, Niamh Martin back from Aussie rules. Particularly those two, like, did they athletically look like that they were nearly professional? Like, would they have stood out to you in terms of athletically speaking?
Yeah, there were Shane. Yeah, they were a little bit, not a bit, they're a head above most of our players, to be honest with you, you know. But like, you know, speaking to Ed Burke after the game and that, his take on it, he was, I won't say he was happy, but he was quite pleased really with the way that the players stuck with it. And the 2 goals that Galway got in the first half, like, were real killers, you know, because they were preventable. And then we missed 2 chances. We had 2 chances in the second half of goals as well that we missed. And had we taken one of those, and with the wind behind us, it could have been a different story. Our backline actually defended quite well. To be fair, they were under a lot of pressure and they defended quite well. But we had difficulty going forward in terms of scoring that. And you'd be hoping that, you know, when Aisling comes back, that'll be a bonus there too. Like that, she'll certainly bring something to the attack. It was an awful day, you know, and it did take a while for the players to get to grips with the AstroTurf as well, you know, and that
one thing
the
I thought
ball
was
was
very encouraging, Noel, that the crowds, even it was around 2,000 people there for the game, like on a dirty Sunday afternoon. The hurlers ran the telly. I know maybe they would have got home in time to see it, but like there's not many inter-county teams would get that kind of a figure, even in Division 1 of the ladies football league. So like there is action behind Tip football. It's if they can get a bit of momentum behind them, they'll have the support there.
They will, and I think they will get the momentum behind them, Shane. You know, I think like it was for a first outing of the year. It wasn't bad at all, as you said, against the All Ireland finalists of last year. And Galway brought on a good few of their big guns. The new ones came back into the team and that for the last 15, 20 minutes or whatever. Tip had played against the wind in the first half, and I was actually with Michael Heverin, who was covering the game as well, and we just commented with about 17, 18 minutes gone, maybe, God, if we can keep this to where to the score that it's at, they'll be in very good shape for the second half. That was we were, I think, maybe a pint down at that stage, and then Galway hit us for the 2 goals, which were real killers. So I think there's probably a lot to be positive about with this team. Um, they came off the field at the end of the game. They were disappointed, obviously. Ed said that they didn't come to be competitive. They came to win the game. It didn't work out that way, but they were competitive. And Shane, one of the things that really kind of impressed was the fact that, right, the game was over. We weren't going to win it, or we weren't going to get back on terms, but they kept plugging away at it and kept driving at Galway, which was really, really good to see. So you'd be hoping that they can get a win or two under their belts and plough on, because, as you said, there's good support there for them, and there's a little bit of a movement behind them.
Yeah, definitely. They're our way to Monaghan this Sunday, 2 o'clock in Castleblaney. Definitely one of the games they'll be targeting for a win, because I think the game after that is at home to Cork. Like for Cork and Galway to be in Division 2, like, it just shows you how competitive the whole ladies football landscape is. If those two teams are not among the top 8, and just going back to the men's footballers, that game is 2:30 on Saturday in Clonmel Sportsfield against Longford. But before we go, Noel, another game on Saturday at 1 o'clock in Mallow, the Harty Cup final. I think you're an alma mater of the CBS, are you, in Thurles, up against
St. Flannan's.
It's up against St. Flannan's. I remember writing about Nina's win last year. Like, I would come from Lura, but the Harty wouldn't register with us up in Lura at all, because, like, a lot of our lads would go to school in Portumna or go to school in Borough or Banagher. Even if the lads would go to Bursakane would have been a vocational school, so wouldn't have been in the radar of the Harty. Now, since I've moved to Nina, I can understand the history of it, and what Nina have done last year, and what Cashel did the year before, and what Templemore did in 17. Like, and they're a small school. If people think, like, if Thurles were to do it, that's 4 different tip schools that would have won it since 2017. And, like, for Thurles, they're gone 10 years now without it, and it's a fair drought. Like, it would be, I think it'd be a further shot in the arm, I suppose. Further vindication of the good work being done at underage and tip is if we get another tip school to win a Harty Cup on Saturday.
Yeah, and if they do win it, they'll make history, because they've never beaten Flannans in the final. They've played them in 2 finals and lost them both. But if they want to find out how to beat Flannans in the final, all they have to do is ask their Templemore colleagues or Abbey CBS, because both of those schools have beaten Flannans in finals. Without a doubt, the Harty carry something really, really special in the hearts and minds of GA people around these parts, and I suppose it goes back maybe to the times of the Jimmy Doyles and all that, where Harty was of huge significance. And in Thurles CBS, then they went a long, long number of years, over 50 years, without getting to a final even, and without winning it. That changed then in 2005 when the breakthrough was made, and 2015 then was the last time that the Harty was won in Mallow again, actually. So maybe that's a good omen. This team, Shane, has started slowly in the campaign. They drew with Flannans in the first round without playing very, very well at all. And it took them a while to kind of find their mojo a bit. They were a slow burn, really. But the last 2 games now against De La Salle and Arscull Reach, 2 big Harty Cup schools as well, and 2 teams that would have been there amongst the favourites to win it. And Thurles managed to have the wherewithal to put them away. So they're going into the final in very good fettle. The confidence is up. There'll be a big crowd from Thurles down in Mallow, and it's a case of an opportunity for these boys to write their name in the history books, and I'm sure that could be impressed upon them, and is being impressed upon them this week.
Again, like, it's a team, like, loaded with talent. Like, if you look at, there's not many schools, like, you look at Tiernan Ryan, you can't an All Ireland man of the match at minor level can't get his place on the team. That shows you the strength they have. Like, and like I saw the De La Salle game in the semi final. Like 28 points was a fair total. And like just conceded 3-12, and some of the goals conceded were sloppy now. Like, and they'd be thinking if we can tidy that up, cut out maybe some of the errors in defence, maybe. And I think some of those errors were self inflicted, maybe trying to force maybe a pass that wasn't on, like, and like like. And some ways we probably haven't seen the best of Ewan Murray yet, and I suppose he's the name everybody's looking at. And like he's always a man for the big occasion. Like I think he'll stand out at the weekend. But it's not just him. Like Robbie Ryan is a player, your own clubman out in Holy Cross. Like he played a fantastic captain's role. Killian Minogue was outstanding against De La Salle. David Costigan is a sort of a warrior leader at the half forward line, outstanding as well. Like they just have quality all over the field. And then you look at Flannan's as well. Like they're definitely two counties and two schools that are benefiting from two counties that are doing an awful lot right at underage level.
Yeah, and to kind of focus on Tipperary, as you rightly said, like the number of teams that have won the Harty and been in the Harty final over the last couple of years, it kind of points to a very good underage structure in Tipperary. And when you look at the fact that we won the All Ireland minor last year and the All Ireland minor 2 years before that again, 2 out of 3 ain't bad, as Meatloaf used to say. And it does definitely point to the fact that the underage thing is being looked after through development squads, through the championships, at all the different levels, 13, 15, 17. There were moves afoot earlier on in the year or towards the end of last year to change around the under 15 and under 17 championships. And delegates voted to stick with the status quo. And I think that's probably in recognition of the fact that if the thing ain't broke, why try fixing it? Like, so yeah, if Thurles can win this final on Saturday, I think it'll be a big shot in the arm to underage hurling as well. And it's also probably a nod to the board and to the clubs for the outstanding work that's been done across the board. There must be, I'd say there's over 12 clubs involved in this Harty Cup, and maybe even more, 1 or 2 from Kilkenny as well, which is in keeping with tradition, going back many years. A few of the Kilkenny lads come in, so that's a really positive thing as well. As you said, Shane, county minors can't get on the team, and when that's happening, you have a good team. But the big thing that I've seen with Tiernan in particular coming into the team, he makes a big impact when he comes in, because of all of the energy he brings and all of the movement he brings. And I think that's going to be crucial when it comes down to the last 10, 15 minutes on Saturday as well in Mallow,
Yeah, Flannan's a fantastic team, and the likes of James Hegarty, we've seen him at minor there a couple of years ago. Great leader. Like it's going to be a big one. But I think if the Thurles management, I'd say, would be thinking this week, like, focus on ourselves, and they'd be thinking 2 years ago against Cashel when they were favourites, didn't really perform on the day. It was a stodgy game, like, and they were being warm favourites, just were out battled that day, I thought. And last year, unlucky in the semi-final, I think, against Ardskol Reach, and they were probably looking on thinking, Nina won it, but we're better than Nina. Like, that could have been us. Like, I'd say some, maybe an element of their preparation this week would be thinking, lads, it's we've got to go out there and grab it now. Nobody's going to hand it to us.
Yeah, you've got to grab it with both hands, bring the performance to the game. Forget about everything else. Just concentrate on the performance and let the rest take care of itself. The final that you mentioned 2 years ago there against Cashel, Cashel put the shackles on him totally. Didn't allow Thurles to play, and Thurles kind of accepted it. Really, they did their best to try and shake it off, but they just weren't able. Cashel had him in a clamp, and they weren't letting go. Last year, very unlucky in that game down in Kilmallock, and this year they find themselves back in the final again. Quite a couple of the players have been involved in 3 or 4 Harty campaigns at this stage, so they have experience of the big day. A few of them have played in All Ireland minors, as we've said, and played in big days. Saturday is a big day for them again. and you'd be hoping that they can just use that experience to concentrate on getting the performance rather than anything else. And if they do that, Shane, I'd be very hopeful that they can come through it.
Yeah, like it's a unique thing about the Harty where for the Munster teams, the Harty is the holy grail. If you don't win an All Ireland after it, doesn't matter. I remember going back to 2012 when Nina lost the Harty, but they won the All Ireland. They sort of felt half dressed because they hadn't won the Harty. Like it. Oh look, you go to Kilkenny, St. Kieran, it's all about the Crow Cup. Like, so look, I know win or lose on Saturday, Thurles will be progressing to the All Ireland series, but like they'll want to go there as Harty Cup winners.
And yeah, if
won it, is it 8 times they've won it? Like they'd like to make it number 9.
Yeah, if they were to go forward as runner up, Shane, they'd be going forward with a heavy heart, I think.
Yeah,
and thinking that it's another missed opportunity, and to go through as champion, as Harty Cup champions, like it's something special in Thurles CBS. They're up on the wall there in the school, and you walk along and you see all the big names, guys who won Harties back through the years. There's one man alive here and living in Holy Cross, Father Tom Ryan. He was on the missions for many years, a Kiltegan father, and he's back living in the parish here. He has 2 Harty medals. And it's an incredible thing to say because they're so hard to win. But he has 2 Harty medals, and I'm sure the Holy Cross boys certainly would be thinking about him when they go out to play in this game on Saturday.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd say this could be a cracking atmosphere like those schools matches, and definitely if they get the students from both schools to come and they get a section of the ground each and make a bit of an atmosphere. Like it's like they have in Leinster schools. There's always rugby. They always have a great atmosphere. It started getting like that way. I know you have to go. Noel, thanks for your in-depth analysis on all things Tipperary this week. And that's about it for this week's show. Thanks to Noel Dundon. We'll be back next week to review a busy weekend of Gaelic Games action. Bye for now.